Hey guys, I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. I am feeling a little bit off color, have been for the past week, and so hopefully it doesn't sound too awful. And of course, if you guys love my videos and want to support me further, you can go to my Ko-fi link. My link is in the description below. In this video, I wanted to speak to you guys about something that a viewer shared actually on one of the comments. And I've told you guys I read all of your comments. Actually, in fact, a lot of my ideas, nowadays 100% of my ideas come from, not 100%, well, a lot of them, 95% of them come from the fact that I read comments and I'm intrigued by something that you guys have said on it, and then I do a video on it. And this individual, now I don't remember the name now because it just kind of stuck in my head, but I forgot to take the name down. This individual said something about how we have a lot of random things as an INFJ that cause us to be offended, or to feel offended. So some of my random pet peeves that people don't understand is when there is a child, when there's a parent or a child with a child, and the child's obviously in need of something, like, they're like tugging at their pant legs and saying, I need to go to the washroom, I need to go to the washroom. And instead of actually paying attention to the child, they're like engrossed in their conversation. Now, of course, this is a parenting thing, like, your children are always bothering you, so you just kind of learn to ignore them. But for me, for some reason, it's like, oh my God, your child needs you for something probably important. Going to the toilet is a big thing. And you're not allowing them or not giving them that time. So that is one of my pet peeves. Now, of course, I'm not a parent, and so I'm not allowed to have an opinion on that, so I get it. But I have gotten offended in the past because of this. Another thing that obviously offends me, but this is a typical thing I think for INFJs, is rudeness. And so obviously if someone picks up their phone while they're in a grocery store lineup, or while they're on a date, had that happen with me, and it was not an important conversation that the person's like, oh, I really have to take this, and so, do you mind? No, they just kind of picked it up, and I'm like, all right, cool, that's it. And so things like that. I mean, there's a bunch of things that come up for us that we find offensive, and once we're offended, we kind of lose a little bit of that person's flavor. We're like, well, yeah, you're cool, I guess, but we're not as enthusiastic about them as we were earlier. But the problem is, and that's what this individual said as well in the comment, is that, all right, cool, it's fine, INFJs, to be offended and to have all these things that offend you. That's fine. The list can be long. It's not a terrible thing. But the thing that is that we have to remember is that we have to tell other people. We have to actually inform other people that we are offended by something that they did and what that thing exactly was. So, for example, if I did get offended by a friend of mine who did something like that with regards to her children, now I don't get offended by that anymore because I just can't, as I said, I'm not allowed to say anything on that matter when I'm not a parent. But for example, if a date does pick up his phone on or while we were on a date, then it is my responsibility to tell him that, I'm sorry, I don't like it when someone picks up their phone while on a date with me. I feel like it's very rude and offensive and disrespectful, basically. And so, do you mind not doing that anymore? And so that conversation, that like extra layer of conversation where, you have something that offends you, you get offended, and then you explain to the person why you were offended by that person. That last layer is something that as an INFJ we are missing. And that layer is actually one of the most important layers, not only for that person's growth, because that person needs to know as well. I mean, if they're doing something that's offensive, and we're not crazy, we're not getting offended over inane things. We don't get offended over just mundane things. We actually do get offended over typical things. And so, which is basically, if someone's being unkind, if someone's being not generous, or if someone's being selfish, just typical things. And so we're not giving that other person the chance to learn about themselves and grow from the process either, right? Because that person obviously has no idea. Perhaps no one's ever told them that they do something rude or selfish or unkind. And so no one's told them, and therefore they're never going to grow. So it's, again, partly, for their growth as well, but mostly it's for your growth. It's for your growth as an INFJ, because I know it's very easy for us to sit there and say, okay, cool, I'm going to get offended and I'm going to door slam the person, they don't deserve me in their life, and then walk away, and that's it. And then we lose another person from our life, which is fine. We don't need them anyways, as we tell ourselves. But why? Why create this kind of world where you don't have any of those important conversations? I know it's difficult to have those conversations, because I have a very difficult time with this. As I said, I've been trying very much. This year has been the year for me where I've been trying to have these difficult conversations. And it's not even a really difficult conversation, but for us to tell someone that you're wrong or that you're being rude or things like that, it's very difficult for us to do that. We'd rather just run away and hide in the distance or door slam them. It's just so much easier for us to run away. But it's very important for our growth, because not only does it, as I said, teach us about ourselves, but also makes us braver and more courageous, and we don't make excuses anymore. Instead of having difficult conversations, and instead of running away from difficult conversations, we have them, right? And so instead of being like, all right, cool, yeah, I'll just door slam them, which is the easy path, actually, if you think about it, we stand our ground and we have that conversation. And then, of course, if the person repeats themselves again, and you told them you don't like this thing, they do it again, and so then that's fine. Then at that point, yes, the door slam is absolutely a viable option for you to take upon yourself. You've done it, you did it, you had the conversation, and you told them not to pick up the phone while you were at dinner with them, or whatever it might be, and they still did it. Then yeah, they're just rubbing it in your face, or they're not respecting you, and so at that point you can let that person go. But at least at that point you've already had that moment of growth, the moment of progress, that moment where you've grown as an individual, because you were able to be brave and be conscious and aware and just courageous, and have that conversation where you're like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't like that, please don't do that. And you don't have to be rude about it. Again, I think we have this idea in our head as INFJs that we're like, okay, cool, so I have to have this conversation, and we get into this mode of battle where we're like, all right, I'm going in to do battle right now, and I'm going to fight to the ground, and I'm going to fight to my death. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It can just be a conversation. It doesn't have to be where like you bring out the big guns and you start talking about everything that's happened since the beginning of time and all of that. You just sit down and be like, all right, cool. Or you can even just do it in passing, that thing that happened yesterday, I didn't like that. Do you mind not doing that? And that's it. And then you move on to something else. It doesn't have to be a big deal. I know we make it a big deal in our head, and I'm sure if you do have one of those conversations, you'll spend your entire night thinking about it before you have it. But it doesn't have to be that much so. And I think what happens is that the more you have these conversations, the more you have these conversations about what offends you and explaining to people what you're all about, they'll understand what you're all about, right? And so they will stop doing it, and your life will become smoother. For example, there's a friend of mine, and I love her to death. I think I've spoken about her a lot, Janie. And she had this thing before where she would always be late for events or like for meetups with me. And so, I had a conversation with her, a very difficult conversation for me because I love her and I dislike criticizing her. But I did have that conversation. I'm like, please, could you let me know if you're going to be late, because I don't like waiting. I feel like it's a waste of my time. Yeah, I have my phone and all that, but I really rather be at home if you're going to be late. I'd rather spend that 15 minutes, that half an hour at home. And so I had that conversation. I just sent her a voice note on Facebook, I know. And she took it well, and she doesn't do that anymore, and it's perfect because like if she is going to be late, she gives me like forewarning, like a long time. She'll be like, all right, I'm sorry, I think I might be late because blah 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 blah. And it just feels really good because now I don't have to be offended by it anymore, and I don't have to be annoyed by it anymore, and I can just relax in that relationship. I'm not like always thinking, this is so annoying, I wish she wouldn't do this, how do I explain it to her? I did, and she stopped doing it, and it's perfect, and our relationship is stronger because of it, and we're closer because of it as well. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Again, I hope that my sickness or illness is not really affecting my videos. I don't want to stop doing them, and I really miss doing videos, so I am going to keep on doing them as much as possible. If the quality is degraded, I do apologize. I hope it's not. And if you guys like these videos, or any of the other stuff that I've done, please let me know below. I love hearing from you guys. And you can support me further by going to my Patreon or Ko-fi link. Both of those links are in the description below. Again, thank you so much for watching. I shall see you guys the next time around. Bye for now.